welcome to another exciting episode of Goth Yearbook. It is I, your host, as always, Eric, aka the Eric Wynn, and with us, telecommuting from Mexico from an undisclosed location.
You just disclosed it.
I disclosed like a massive area. We got ourselves
Mexico's very small.
a new dog mom who has promised us an on-air.
I'm leaving.
No, I'm just kidding. The one and the only Caitlin, aka the Caitlin D. Caitlin, how's it going? I think I just pulled something.
Wow, you're gonna make me start crying.
It's all right. I just
in.
literally pulled a muscle in my side.
That's
We're in
instant
good shape
karma right
here.
there.
Yeah.
Aaron, I have like a rib out of place right now because my liver has been inflamed. And like I got work on it today and he was all pushing all my guts. And so I feel like trash. And then Eric decides to open the show by asking about a very emotionally difficult situation that I was in this past week.
To be fair, it was, I don't know. I felt like you made good decisions and all that. I thought it went all
I mean, I
the way
definitely
best way.
did. I tried to foster a dog. I was hoping to adopt, and I got home and quickly realized like she was an amazing dog. Her name was Cookie. So cute, such a sweetheart, such a sweet baby, and was so nice to Prince, and Prince really liked her. Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say Prince liked her. Prince would hang out and be like curious about her.
Curious, yeah.
And he would have liked her, I know, if they had like gotten to know each other. But the problem with Cookie is I'm like the sole caretaker of these animals, and she has really severe separation anxiety. And she's also so she was abandoned after there was a hurricane several months ago in these parts. And she and another dog were abandoned after that by their family, which, like people have to go and it's a emergency situation. Whatever. But the other dog she was abandoned with is blind, and they were like pretty closely bonded. But I guess the rescue had tried them like little day trips separated from each other, and they did all right. So they were like, all right, like foster Cookie, because she seemed to be drawn to me and want to come with me. But then as soon as I got home, she was like on me like white on rice. Like if I even like stopped looking at her and like went to do something in the kitchen, it would be whining, but then it would quickly turn into howling and like scream howling. Like it sounded like me when I'm having like a mental breakdown.
Right.
And also I have a room upstairs and she couldn't make it up the stairs. And so I had to for any of us to get any sleep, because she wouldn't go inside of the crate that I got for her. And I know that crate training takes a while. Long story short, like I didn't do anything for 4 days without this dog. Like I like never left her, and I was like carrying her upstairs to sleep. And someone who's like better with training, like a spiral staircase. And that's probably why my rib got pulled out of place. And turns out also the blind dog, Coco, was really struggling back at the rescue and starting fights with other dogs, which imagine like a blind dog starting beef at a rescue. And she also wasn't sleeping. So it was all just like really not working. And so we all decided it was best if Cookie went back to the rescue, and she's like happier there than when she was with me.
Well,
she was really cute, and we worked on her fear of water. And we had like a really nice bonding experience, and I learned a lot about like my own abandonment issues and how I must have acted when
really intense 48 hours.
It was like 4 days.
All right.
48 hours is 2 days.
I'm no math expert, but I'm just glad that everything worked out for everyone and the blind dog. And we'll be checking back in with you on that situation in a few weeks. Oh, that's all we can play for the for the legal
But
reasons.
then I also realized that, and what's funny is Prince's behavior changed literally zero throughout this whole ordeal. Like the dog would howl and Prince would just like come downstairs and eat his food and kind of
Right.
like, hey, he actually would come down and not comfort her, but he would like lie down next to her, like in the same room and sort of like, what, like, hey, I'm here. Like, what, what's your problem? And kind of how he looks at me when I'm scream crying.
Maybe
And
maybe it'll toughen him up though, because it was part of it was like being a little bit of like a bodyguard for him, and maybe like he realized like, oh fuck this, like I might be replaced. I need to get toughen myself up.
yeah, well, that is one thing is it did seem to make him more confident, like having this
Yeah.
dog that was like falling apart at the seams emotionally. And she also didn't like chase after him at all. Like if he
Right.
hissed at her or established any boundaries, she would totally back off. And even though
Whimpering.
she was much bigger. So I think that gave him a lot more confidence because he's been walking around a lot more like chill. And I realized that what I thought were Prince's separation anxieties or sadnesses were 100% projections because I'll come back from like a day of being gone for 8 hours and
Right.
Prince will just like come and like look at me and like come down and get a treat and then just go right back up to bed. Like he doesn't really give a shit.
It is funny because you'll tell me about it and you'll be like, my poor boy. And like every other day, you're like, I made the worst decision for Prince ever by bringing him here. I can see on his face anguish. And then I do picture him just kind of like sitting, because every picture he posts is him just like sitting and like looking
Just
like
looking
chill.
so happy and like chilled out.
Yeah.
He literally has like a cat tree right now where he just looks into the jungle and every morning he gets bathed in sunlight and then he can come and like sit up on this staircase and look out at the ocean and watch all the birds and stuff. So Prince doesn't actually care, but I don't know. I think I feel bad because he just used to have a lot of like friends in our old neighborhood and like, but again, it's probably if I was talking to my therapist, my paid therapist, not you, um, about this, she would be like, you're just talking about yourself right now, right? Like, the cat is fine.
So we are gonna. It's a mailbag episode. We have some questions. We have some voicemails and all that fun stuff. But real quickly before we get into it, let's get back into some good habits around this here podcast. What about some media stuff? What have you been reading or watching while you've been down there? Let's knock this out. We never got a chance to talk about And Just Like That, which is
Oh man.
which now I feel like it's too late for us to really comment on it because everyone else has. But we have been, behind enemy lines watching the shit out of that show.
I mean, it was. It is what it is. It's the
And just like that.
And just like that, they made more Sex in the City than it was exactly like it was when it was on television. Just as out of touch with. I mean, it's like Sex in the City was a great show for like two seasons. And I told you this, like my thoughts on this. I feel like after the first two seasons, which were very closely based on like the books, they just kind of rode into the sunset with like the fashion and ridiculous relationship scenarios and I don't know, God knows what else. I think it is interesting like how prudish Carrie Bradshaw seems now.
Bradshaw.
Bradshaw.
Yeah, the whole like she's very prudish, uppity.
Mm-hmm.
Completely seems like the most stick in the mud, sourpuss. Like would never want to hang out with her, let alone host like a sex fucking podcast radio show with her.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, I think it's like I don't even know if it's intentional or not, but I dabbled in watching Euphoria, and by which I mean I watched every episode.
One of our questions, I don't watch it, but just to jump ahead, someone did say, "What did you guys think of the Euphoria season opener?" And I was like, "I don't watch it, so I have no idea."
So I watched Euphoria, and because it's been like, everyone's sort of talking about it, and I've had friends tell me like, "Oh my God, it like really honestly portrays, it's like so deep about mental health and addiction and all this stuff." I fucking hated it, honestly. I think that like it's messaging about mental health is so harmful. And I know that like this is not a popular opinion, but I personally have like made a lot of progress in my anxiety and depression. And I grew up with a very depressed parent that with like very severe depression. And I don't subscribe to the belief that like, oh, I have this chemical illness that I'll have for the rest of my life and there's nothing I can do about it. So like I just have to take drugs to fix it. And
Right.
I know that's not everyone's jam, but I'm like, it really bothers me when, and this isn't what the show does, but it bothers me when people are like, oh, like, don't tell me to fucking try meditation or like exercise or all that. I get that that can't solve your depression forever if you do them one time, but it is part of a lifestyle that can get you to like, that will change your brain chemistry.
Right.
And the like defeatist attitude towards like addiction and depression, it just like, I feel like that kind of messaging, especially like directed for towards teens, can be just like really toxic and harmful.
Right.
And it also makes depression and addiction, like it makes them look bad, but it also makes them look very sexy.
Yeah,
And
it looks like that from the. It looks like a very sexy show where kids are very depressed and like
and fucking
abusive.
all the time. Yeah. And it's like really glorifies violence. It really glorifies drug use. I mean,
Honestly, sounds good. It sounds better and better the more you talk about it.
Yeah, and it's funny that I feel like such a square, like talking about it this
Carrie
way. But
Bradshaw
it's just,
over here.
I know, but I just don't think that there's anything like useful about that kind of portrayal of that kind of thing when it's especially like I don't really understand also like how it's like, you know, no one like it. I know these actors aren't actually teenagers, but I don't necessarily love when shows are like, okay, this is Sex in the City, but with teenagers. And
Right.
like, it's like you see all the genitals all the time in the show. And it's kind of like, this is an interesting thing. It's just like a weird, I know I would have watched it as a teen and I know I would have been like, why am I not that
Why don't I not
stylish?
putting glitter on my face?
Yeah, why like don't I go to parties all the time?
Right.
Why don't I should try more drugs, you know, like and it just like bothers me because I literally watched like Sex in the City growing up and I thought that was bad, you know, and I do think that fucked me up a little.
Yeah, watching Steve as a little kid. Miranda. Me and Brady hope that you're not having an affair with a non-binary comedian, Miranda.
He's like the Cookie Monster.
That's what he sounds like. Miranda, I'm deaf in both ears.
He hasn't even been in the show since the first episode. I think he's like
they literally had him like there for one, like it was I think Big's funeral. He's like, I can't hear too well or something. That was it. It was like, and then Maria's like, we haven't fucked in decades. It's like, yeah, I can see why.
Oh, my rib.
This is a night of painful rib action.
I started laughing and now it's turning into crying because it hurts.
Well,
yeah.
We're excited for next week's guest,
Anyway,
Zendaya. Who'll be.
Yeah. Now I'm watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it.
Hey, I hear really good things about that show. Actually, I never really watched it, but I hear everyone who watches it says it's really good, really wholesome.
Honestly, Andy Samberg, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's a really good actor.
Is he? I've never really seen anything
great.
outside of Silent Live that I can recall, but I like him. I think. Oh, you know what? I don't give a fuck. People might hate him and the Lonely Island. That group that like makes those videos back when they were all on Silent Live. They did that pop star like mockumentary type movie. I thought it was fucking hilarious, and he was great in it. He played basically like a Justin Bieber type character, and he was hilarious in it. I was bought and sold on his zaniness.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good. I know it's been out forever, so it's not really relevant to review Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Right. But it's. I think it's funny.
I would love if Steve was in Euphoria. I'm on ecstasy. That's great. What have you been reading? Anything that you want to shout out to the people?
I've been reading book by Isabel Allende that I told you about that I did a bibliomancy to. Um,
Oh shit! Is that a real word?
I didn't use it correctly, but bibliomancy is a correct
Oh,
is a
bibliomancy.
word.
I thought you said bibliomancy, and I was like, is that like a biblio dance or something party? What the fuck?
No, bibliomancy is when you like say, okay, I have a question, I'm gonna hold it in my head, and I'm gonna divine the answer by opening a book, the nearest, like a book that is calling to me to a
yes.
certain page.
Okay, yes. That which I mean, I don't know how much you want to reveal about that, but yeah, that was very interesting. That's what that's called. I'll have to try that out. We'll have to do that like an episode. Like
Yeah, that would be fun.
we'll like bring on some friends and all like have like a stack of books and we'll just like figure it out.
We'll bibliomance them. I don't think it's supposed to be a verb. What about you? What are you reading?
I am pulling up the author's name right now because I always forget. Oh yeah, sorry. I was given the novel MASH, which the infamous television show and movie set in the Korean War about a wacky medical group. It's the original novel written by Richard Hooker back in 1969. Just classic old man Eric type literature, of course, to be consuming like years later. I'm just now reading a book from 1969. And then, God, I feel like when I was down with COVID a couple weeks ago, what did we watch? We did watch, Landscapers is what it's called, and that's on HBO. It's about this real couple from Britain that basically murdered one of their parents, and it's a really good television series. It's just like a 4-part, I think 4 or 5 episode thing. But the main girl in it, gosh, I'm sorry guys, we usually have these people's names all down. Is the woman who won the Academy Award, Olivia Colman, just like a year or two ago for The Favorite, and she was like the British chick who when they announced her, she was like, what the fuck? She genuinely, because I think she was up against Glenn Close. And
she was on Peep Show, right?
She was on Peep Show,
that
exactly.
Girl?
That's
okay.
how I knew her. And now she's of course, getting all these great dramatic roles. And oh my God, on Landscapers, I mean, a powerhouse performance to say the least. Like the way they filmed the show is very interesting, but her performance is just it's heartbreaking but brilliant. So check it out if you got HBO. And otherwise, you know me, just watching Friends every night while I fall asleep at midnight.
That's been me with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You
gotta have those comfort ones.
And my comfort show for sure.
So let's get right into some of these questions. I know we're hurting tonight. We're both fucked up our ribs in the first 5 minutes of the show, so we'll try to make this.
Mine was already fucked up. You accidentally sympathy injured yourself somehow.
Someone wanted to know if a celebrity was to make an OnlyFans, which celebrity would you subscribe to? I'm going to say this, and it's so hard because I try not to think about these too much, but the first thing I thought when I kind of scanned this earlier today was it's really easy to be like, oh, I want to do a hot person I've always liked in my life. But it's I feel like save the mystery there. I'd love to see a weird, I'd like to see Dan Aykroyd or someone just that's, I don't know. That theoretically wouldn't usually have an OnlyFans because I'd love to be how are they going to utilize that platform? What poses is Dan Aykroyd going to slip into?
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I'm largely hetero and just can't really fathom paying to see a man naked because it's not, the visual appeal isn't always, it's I don't need to see the penis. That's not my number one priority when I'm have a crush on someone who I'm never going to sleep with anyway. Maybe I want to check out the goods if it's realistic,
All right.
But I'm not going to yeah, I'm not necessarily going to, I am in love with Ewan McGregor, but I'm not going to I can just rent a movie and see his penis.
Now,
And
would it okay? Like, say we're talking like $1 subscription. Like, there wouldn't be one that you'd be morbidly curious, like Justin Bieber, or like just someone where you're like, I'm curious, like what that.
not I think for the same reasons you would. I would be more curious, I guess, yeah, about someone who was funny, I
Yeah,
guess,
how
and
they
just
would
be
utilize
like,
it.
yeah. And I can't even really think of a good example. It's great podcast content. I'm not sure.
Well, if it comes up, well,
So Dan Aykroyd.
I guess that's what I'm going with. Dan Aykroyd.
Okay, you know what? I will go with Pete Davidson because I am just
Curious what
curious.
that he's packing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to know if it's just like, does he just text back really fast, or like, is he just nice to women and that's why they all love him, or because he looks like a ghoul.
I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna maybe sound cynical, because I'm not denying, because everyone like jokes that like because Ariana Grande started like the big dick energy talking about him, so that's always been like the thing. It's like, oh, that's how he's landing all these like hot celebrity women, is that he has like this huge dick, which I'm not denying he might, but I don't think that alone, because you're right. I think, in my opinion, I can't help but wonder if it became like, I think he genuinely was funny and some people enjoyed it, and like especially like some of the people that he was dating, they probably found him to be like a little edgy in his own kind of weird way. But now I can't help, this is the cynical side of me, thinking that like it's almost become a, oh fuck, what's the phrase I want to say here?
He just has like a PR,
yeah, like a status thing where now it's like
PR thing.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, I'd love to be in line and say like I got him for like the 3 months of that thing, which sounds cynical, but I can't help but think that.
No, and everything in celebrity culture is fake and part of a machine. And I would not be surprised remotely if after Ariana Grande, he literally even I don't know if I think that was fake. I don't know what's fake when it comes to celebrity culture, but I wouldn't be surprised if all his other relationships are just about PR, because it's like, oh, like at this point the ball is rolling, so we know this will get headlines, you know.
Right.
But I also read the big dick thing. I honestly think that men care about penis size more than women in some ways. Or like women might like say they care about it, but then like I know plenty of women also that like having sex with a man with a really huge dick is really uncomfortable, you know?
Well, I just don't think that would be the reason specifically for him. Like, I think it was a joke, and like I highly doubt that is the reason, but hey, you never know, maybe. No Halo, real quickly, I got shouted out in the YouTube chat, said Scott Peterson's OnlyFans. Which, who was the Florida mom of, well, what the fuck?
Casey Anthony?
Well, yeah. In the boys chat, we often reference her when we are like, oh, queen. We're like,
doesn't she? Oh, God. I'm sure she would love that. Doesn't she have like butthole photos out there on the internet?
Shut the fuck up. I'm looking up right now.
Please don't look up Casey Anthony butthole photos while we're recording.
Oh my God, leak news. Okay, we'll save it.
No, I think if they're not online, they were definitely like found like evidence, like part of the investigation, because they were like in a camera that she had.
Oh, that does sound vaguely familiar. I don't really remember the deets on that one. It's just kind of become like a funny thing for us to constantly reference this incredible human being.
She's still out there, just zero consequences.
What should I do instead of ghosting someone when the vibes ain't right?
Just tell them you're not interested.
Okay, actually, I am curious. You, because everyone, it's so funny. I've thought about this before. I was talking to my friend about this. Everyone says that ghosting is bad, which it is, like on like a certain fundamental level, but not everyone is built the same. And sometimes I wonder, like, it depends, of course, on everything too. Like, if it's just like, if we're talking like 1 or 2 dates, you know, yes, that is the right thing to do, like you said. But some people, I don't think, can handle that directness the way that you can. But they would.
You mean like being that direct or receiving that information?
And of course, being that direct. Millions of people have issues being that direct, but there is a lot of people who also can't handle receiving direct information like that, or at least without a
I don't
reason
think-
why.
But I don't think that those people are better equipped to
Being ghosted. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
like,
That's why I'm like,
be ignored.
what would you do with
So-
that kind of person if like
That's just something that they have to fucking work out with themselves, you know, like
Nice.
everyone has to be able to accept that, like, not everyone you meet that you have feelings for is gonna like you know, like, grow up.
I like it. That got some Seinfeld horns. I liked it.
Just everyone gets rejected, and
Yeah.
it sucks, but like, cry about it and then move on with your fucking life. Like, you can't expect to go and get every job that you apply for. You can't expect to, like, every date to turn into your wife or husband or
Right.
whatever. It's just, that's juvenile.
You should write like a self-help book. It's just like very
Get
like,
over it.
Get the fuck over it. Like middle of chapters, you're like, you know what? I'm like so pissed off even thinking about this. I'm gonna go play with my cat, Prince.
Well, and I really think that ghosting, and I'm not saying that I haven't done it because I have, but like, I really think that it's like, you're totally fucking kidding yourself if you think that you're doing it to spare the other person's feelings, because being ignored is like, I actually just saw something today. I don't know if this is true. I'll have to look it up, but I saw something today that like being ignored actually like sets off the same part of your brain that being physically hurt does.
Whoa,
like,
really?
It can actually damage you, you know, and I understand why it's hard to have that conversation, but like, even, I don't know, I think you can also do a little bit of white line. You can do a little bit of, it's not you, it's me, you know, like, just to soften the blow, because
Right.
people know what the fuck that means. It's them.
Right.
It's like, it's just not, they're just not interested in you, and that's fine. And sometimes, honestly, like, sometimes that person has like issues that they don't necessarily, they're not like, you don't have to disclose like why you're not capable of being with that person. But if you're straight up just not interested, you can just say like, hey, I, you know, appreciated our time together, but like, I don't want to pursue this romantically anymore. And that person's going to be upset. But like, they're also going to be like, okay, cool. I'm not going to waste my fucking time wondering if this person like is dead, or if they're going to pop up in 2 weeks and be like, hey, sorry. Like, cause sometimes, I don't know, like you can spend all that time being like, what is going on? What happened? You know, just tell them, grow up, just do it.
I'm picturing now, sorry, I got a loud driver going past my house. I'm just picturing like the scenario where someone is doing that and they aren't being let off the hook, and then they're just like finally, I'm picturing like you basically just finally being like, you know what, it is because of you, all right? So I'm gonna leave now.
I mean, I've been at that point where, you know, I've been like, hey, like, this isn't a good time for me. And then the person like kind of doesn't let it go. And then after a while, I'm like, you know what? This is actually why.
You're like, actually, this is an incredible time for anyone that other than you.
No, I've gotten to that point with someone where I was like, you know, it's not something I really want to pursue right now. It's my own reasons. It has nothing to do with you, blah, blah. Right. And then like we kind of tried to stay friends, but they were actually just still trying to date me, you know? And then after a while I was like, it's actually because you're like kind of manipulative.
Oh shit. Damn. Hell yeah. Stay toxic, King.
And he was not happy about it, and we did not stay friends.
He's like, how dare you accurately call me manipulative?
Yeah, he was like, we were never real friends anyway. And I was like, well, see,
prick.
I was right.
Yeah, seriously. That report, that study you found about how it affects you the same way as being physically hurt, they must mean very specifically with like a romantic potential love ghosting of some kind, because man, just in general, when a lot of people ignore me, sweet relief when you're not being called upon. Like, I can tell you right now, if my bosses started to ignore me more and more. Oh my goodness.
I think being overlooked is different than
Yeah.
being ignored.
True.
I think it's different if you went to like your mom's house and you were like, hey Jog, like blah blah, and then she just completely ignored you, like that would probably hurt you.
Oh, sounds accurate, honestly. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen. What was the mall like of your youth?
Glendale Galleria,
Oh
baby.
shit! They used that in like a couple movies, if I'm not mistaken. I
Clueless.
swear, yes, of course, Clueless, and I think Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm pretty sure is used there. I could be wrong, but
I don't know.
that's the most famous one. You're right, though. Clueless. That
Contemporary casual.
was a mall right there. What
Yeah.
do you remember anything that was like there back then that isn't now? Or like what it was like back then?
Contemporary casual.
Is that
think-
a store?
I think that was the name of it. Charlotte Russe. Oh man, Limited 2. All those fucking stores. Oh, one thing that was there is Mrs. Fields cookies.
Oh, we got one of those up at this mall actually. That's
They took it out and it hurts every time.
the big one in when I grew up in the Far East Bay, the big one, it still is, I'm assuming, but it was the Sun Valley Mall in Concord / Pleasant Hill. And I still remember it used to be like, even though I was just like a little boy and like I didn't have any money to spend or anything like that, there was something magical about it back then. There used to be like the Suncoast, I think that was what it was called, or Coast to Coast, Suncoast.
Suncoast Plaza.
Yeah. No, the Suncoast was
No,
like
that sounds.
West Coast. Fuck, I'm sorry. I'm sure there's listeners at home like pulling their hair out. It was like where you used to buy movies, basically, like, and you could buy like movie memorabilia and posters. It was like a real '90s thing. The WB store. There was like that Warner Brothers store that we had. A couple malls had it where they sold a bunch of Looney Tunes type shit, and you could actually crawl in this like rocket ship thing and watch like old Looney Tunes commercial or cartoons. There was like a couple other things like that. The Disney store where they had like they had like this roundabout thing that was like all the stuffed animals of like all these different characters when you walked in. You didn't have one of those?
We had the Disney store, but none of the other things you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with. Hot Topic, I know.
I don't remember Hot Topics back then, funnily enough. I only remember them from when I worked at one in high school. And there was one other thing. Oh, I do remember. I don't know why, but I always like reference it too. I remember that Wet Seal because I think they're still around. But I remember back
I love
then,
Wet Seal.
like in the '90s, their whole aesthetic, and probably like a lot of clothing stores were like this in the '90s. But it was like almost like industrial. Like I remember, like they didn't put out too much. Everything was like cold, hard, flat, like slats of like concrete and like metal chains and shit like that. And I remember like. It felt like almost like a very aggressive store for women to buy like a spaghetti top or something, or whatever they call that shit.
Spaghetti top. Ow. Oh.
What do they call that shit? You know.
A spaghetti strap top or just a camisole, but I like spaghetti.
I feel like a cam asshole now with that reaction.
Tank top. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I liked BB a lot too, but BB was really expensive, and that was like the slut store. But I was super into it.
Did you? Would you and your friends go like junior high school? Was the mall like a certain kind of hangout spot?
Oh, for sure, especially because I wasn't allowed to do that much as a kid. So like the mall was, neutral, definitely a place. Exactly. And there was usually like a movie theater.
That's what I was about to ask, if you guys had a movie theater there. That's also like the staple.
Yeah, and totally like would hang out in the food court, go to the movies. There was a guy I had a crush on at one of those like skater stores, like a Roxy store or something, which funnily enough, I still will go to those stores sometimes to find like clothing that fits me because I kind of have like preteen sized body. And so I like every once in a while, like once a year, I'll just go spend like $300 at like PacSun or something and get like jeans that actually fit me and tank tops and stuff. And I'm like, all right, that's my shopping for the year.
Do you, because I know you're a big Disneyland fan. Do you ever? It's probably not it's a little different for you since you live there 24/7. But do you go to downtown Disney ever, or do you ever like spend time down there? Because that is like there. I don't usually shop at those kinds of places, but there is like a Billabong or Roxy or some kind of like shop like that
Well, that's
there.
like an hour away from Los Angeles. So no, I mean I can
I guess
get
yeah, you
to
get all that.
at the Glendale Galleria, you'd get any store you could possibly imagine that would be at downtown Disney.
The Glendale Galleria. What an incredible
Because it's
name, even.
also, yeah, now it's next to Americana at the brand or
Mm.
whatever, and which is like the big outdoor shopping mall that they built
Yeah.
in probably the mid 2000s or something. And they're like right next to each other. So it's like if you can imagine something, you can find it in one of those two malls. But I'm actually not a big fan of shopping because nothing fits me. And I also don't really like spending money on clothes. And it gives me a lot of anxiety to be around that many people. And
I
yeah.
yeah, the lot I get, I guess because partially because I mean I like to go shopping at a, I don't know why I say it like that. I like it to go shopping at a bookstore or something like that. But man, if I
A
go to
bug store?
a bookstore,
Bookstore.
if I ever have to go to the mall now,
Yeah.
it is usually very depressing. Like even the vibe in the mall is always like it's just not the same. There's no glamour to
Well,
it. It
now
feels
we
very
know
like
like how capitalism is collapsing and you know, like it's a little less fun to just like go. The 90s were when we would go to the mall, I guess, you
Yeah.
know, and it was a different time. Like it was a little more carefree and like we knew the environment was in trouble, but it wasn't really our problem yet,
Yeah.
you know?
it was.
And now it's like everything just feels really fake and like everything feels like you're distracting yourself, you know, because
Yeah.
you are.
well,
And consumerism, like we're aware of what like the
yeah,
problems with all this stuff now.
exactly. So you feel a little bit more like like you feel grubby. You feel like a piece
Feels
of shit.
dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a mall, because then it's like if it's one thing if you go to like a really nice place and you're like, you know what, I am treating myself, and this is like a boutique kind of shop where I'm going to treat myself. But if you're just like kind of at, like,
Boutique.
you know what I'm saying, where they sell all those spaghetti tops.
A boutique bud store with spaghetti scraps, spaghetti shirts. Ah.
You got this, buddy. All right,
Next question.
Yeah, who is the ultimate mean girl from a '90s movie, from a '90s teen movie?
90s teen movie.
It might not be in the 90s, so I apologize. No Halo did say Suncoast. He said, do you remember going to the box office inside Dillard's for concert tickets? I remember going to Tower Records for my concert tickets back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. I think I've been to Hot Topic for concert tickets, actually.
They probably used to do that there, I'd imagine. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if this is 90s, but She's All That. That mean girl?
Ooh,
She's a really mean girl for no reason other than like, because like some of the other movies, like they'll be like, they kind of give you a little glimpse where you're like, all right, this is kind of why. She's just a mean girl. She doesn't even like hanging out with Matthew Lillard, who's basically playing like a version of Puck from the real world in that movie, like brilliantly playing it. She doesn't even like hanging out with him after, like, she uses him to kind of like be a dickhead to Freddie Prinze Jr. And then after a day of hanging out with Lillard, she's like, fuck you too. Like, she just is mean to everyone. She's really rotten.
She's a bad apple. She probably has problems at home.
Well, they didn't give that character development, so I take everything at face value, and I'm just like, she's just mean. She's just a mean girl.
I'm trying to think of more 90s teen movies, and literally this is how like non-functional my brain is. I went to like, okay, what are the DVDs I own? And they're like Clue and Spice World. I'm like, those are no good here.
I'm going to just list what immediately came up on Google. We got Cruel Intentions. We got Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh yeah, Buffy and Cruel Intent, or Sarah Michelle Gellar and Cruel Intentions is real wicked.
She is actually. She's more diabolical than most, and her kind of deviousness results in her stepbrother being killed.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fucked up.
It's no joke.
All right, we'll do that. Friend of the show, Marissa, sent in some. She wanted to know. Sorry, I have to go to the Instagram for that one. Something about dolphins. I want to say. Has Caitlin established telepathic contact with the dolphins in her new adventure?
I'm gonna say that my telepathic connection with dolphins never ceases. But here there's a lot more whales than dolphins right now. I think it's the time of year. But I see whales like all day, every day from my house, from the beach in front of my house. Like this morning I was like taking a walk on the beach and there were just like whales just jumping up and spinning around and flapping their tails. And I was like, enough already. I get it. This is a magical, beautiful moment.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you guys, you can be a little bit more subtle about your.
It's almost funny though at this point, because I'll just like be in the kitchen making coffee or something and I'll just look out and you see like the you know.
And you're like taking it for granted at this point. You're like, yeah. You're like watching
just
Euphoria.
The whales. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to establish contact with them. I do really like also that in Mexico on their $500 like pesos, like the 500 peso bill, there's whales, which is cool.
No kidding. Okay. Oh, so they're a big deal around there. That's probably them like flapping, like demanding their cut of the money. And then Marissa asked a pointed one to me. What was it? Rumor has it the Eric Wynn developed superpowers post Rumble with COVID. TRF stands for tail slapping or fucking. No, truth or false, I'm guessing is what that means. True or false? No, if anything, I feel it's so funny because last week when we did our episode, you like jokingly were like, you look like you're changed, like you've been through something. And I kind of laughed about it, but since then I've like thought about it. I'm like, I actually do feel that way. And I feel like I have like lost like some certain health aspects that I won't ever gain back. I feel like I can't breathe correct ever since then. Like I feel like my allergies have been, because I already get bad allergy stuff, and I feel like they've been like horrible lately. Like I cannot breathe for the life of me. It's like that. So
well, you should get so the thing that I practice in my job, craniosacral therapy, you should get that because it helps cleanse your spinal fluid, and a lot of the residual stuff left over from the virus will get like flushed out of your system if you get that.
All right. I like it. Well, I'll check back in with myself on that one.
Yeah, he's never going to do it for the listeners at home.
I'm going to have a hard time just even saying it on the phone to anyone I call place. I'm like, I'm looking for the
I'm going to send you a website.
Okay. Thank you. I actually will take a look into it. How far into a horror movie do you think you could survive?
Like before I turn it off, or like
in real, like if you were in a horror movie, like
no, I understand. I was trying to make a joke. Probably. I think it depends on what kind of mental health day I'm having. Because if you get me on the wrong day, I'm just gonna be like, whatever, man, just do it.
Right.
And it also depends on the villain. If they have like a really creepy way of killing people, like if they're just shooting people, I'm going to be probably a lot easier to get.
Quite the horror film.
But
just slaughtering. Which I guess, I mean, that will be like horror movies like 10 years from now to be like, well, this is just what it is. So people are just going to be shooting each other. And it's like, oh.
Didn't we do a quiz about this? I think I lasted.
We might have. Oh, yeah.
I think I lasted till the end.
Yeah.
So in our Halloween episode this year with Will Damon, we did a personality quiz. I think I would last a while. I'm a tough cookie. What about you?
It would depend on the villain, honestly. Men don't typically, I could see you, because you have like that final girl sort of thing where I feel like you would like use you're like, oh, I know a lot about like craniosacral, whatever. And you somehow like rub a spine or something and it helps get you a little bit further along, and you'd be like, oh, like I know shit about like falcons, and I don't know. You got a lot of like that weird shit going on.
Do you know how to say any words correctly? Falcons.
the Falcon Island. All right, we got just a couple more. Let's rock these. Maybe we'll save that one. Can you predict what social media will be like in 10 years?
No, I don't even know if we're going to be here in 10 years.
Yeah, if we make it, it will be, because TikTok's already kind of like condensed it. I do think if there is like some crazy revolution and like things are kind of adjusted, I could see like long form, like live journal type shit making a comeback, where instead of like, because it keeps getting like condensed smaller and smaller, like in TikTok is like a grand example of that, where it's like, everything's distilled to just like tiny little like blips, and I feel like that will like cave in on itself, and people will want like expanse and like something akin to like a live journal or like MySpace. You know how you used to be able to like make your own profile and it was like a big deal. I feel like something like that will come back where you can really like tailor made your own sort of like social media like profile of some kind and like
Yeah.
different colors and all stuff, because everything's pretty uniform right now. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of them, like you're not allowed to like tweak it other than what you actually post, you know what I mean? So I think there will be some sort of like comeback where people will want to like they'll take back the night with this one in their profiles.
Sure. I mean, I honestly have no idea. My only prediction is that if I have like anywhere near enough money at that point, I will just have someone managing mine, because I already feel like I'm starting to fall off the wagon, or not. That's not the correct metaphor.
Fall off the falcon?
Fall off the caravan, or fall off the horse-drawn carriage. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing touch with like with TikTok and even just like reels on Instagram. Like I don't really watch them much, and I don't have a ton of interest. I don't know how to make them. And I'm not saying this as far as, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm like too cool for this. I'm saying this like it gives me a headache, and I feel like in another few years, I don't even know if I'll have the energy to like put a picture up. I might just go back to group texting my photos to people. In 10 years, I'm going to be sending out a newsletter by mail. Like once a quarter, and be like, the harvest was green this year.
We have some family that does it, and like, hey, I love it. I love my family, and but it does make me laugh a little when it comes around, because it's like there's something very, I don't even know the right word for it, but it's so funny because it's like reading like a newspaper about like people, you know. It's like, and then cousin George is like just got into Yale, and I'm like, this is fucking boring.
Oh, it reminds me of the Nextdoor announcement I saw on my Nextdoor app, because I still have it connected to Silver Lake where I lived in LA. And I got an email that the headline was just "sad news!" ! And then the Nextdoor post was like, "My cousin was stabbed yesterday." And it's like, I don't know if that's like sad news! I mean, it is, but I don't know if this is the right place or punctuation.
I didn't want to interrupt the story because it's so good. I knew about it, but while you were saying it, I laughed, and once again, like I did hurt my rib, and then my head bounced back, and I hit the fucking bookshelf, and then I bounced forward and hit my tooth on the mic. So
Okay,
for the YouTubers at home, feel free to try to find that timestamp and enjoy it, because it's a good one.
My bad. My computer, I'm gonna have to figure out a new place because my computer is quickly draining battery.
Let's
do the
voice. Let's do the voicemail. And we'll head out.
Yeah, last one.
All right. Do you have enough to last you through
the
voicemail?
24%, but I'm losing about 2% per minute. So let's go.
Here's a hypothetical choice. You could spend the rest of your life on a gurney, physically appearing brain dead to the rest of your loved ones, but living your dream life in your brain. With no limitations in your mind, doing anything that you wanted in the entire world. You'd be completely oblivious to the suffering and pain of everyone you loved and their misery about your condition. And you would be having a fantasy life within your own brain on a gurney in a hospital room. Which would you choose? Life on a gurney, fantasy life, or your own living life? That is the conundrum. I have been asked to present a question, and this is it. My name is Robin. Goodbye.
Wow, that was incredible.
We gotta get Robin on to read our Poe from our Poe catalog.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm fucking sweating.
that was really
that was
intense.
great pacing.
I want whatever Robin is smoking.
Oh man, I'm fucking like legitimately sweating. Okay. If you didn't hear what it was, did you get?
No, I did hear what it was. Please don't repeat it. We don't have time.
No, but you did get what the question was.
Yes.
Okay. Explain it to the listeners.
It was explained. I feel like it was very thoroughly explained, like multiple times. But if you still don't know, would you rather, live a fantasy life, but you're in a hospital room and but you're like
in your
ignorant
head, you're like,
to the suffering of other people. But yeah, in your head, you're living your fantasies, or just not do that.
Yeah. Or like just being in that gurney though in pain, like, fuck that.
But you're not in pain.
If you're in the fantasy life, but if you're choosing to go back to reality, wouldn't you be feeling the pain of that gurney?
Well, that was what wasn't clear when she presented the question is, am I physically am I just strapped to a gurney in my daily life?
Wait, so is the option, is it really just like, well,
or is it just my life now, you know?
Hey, that fantasy life is still sounding good.
Well, it's sort of like the Matrix question, right?
Yeah, okay. What do you choose?
I think I'm a blue pillar.
I don't know which one's which.
I don't actually know either. I'm pretty sure the blue pill is when you choose the fantasy life.
I think so too, from a recent trailer I watched of a movie I'm never going to see called Matrix Reloaded.
I frankly think that that's what we're all doing, just like incarnating as humans anyway. It's sort of like playing out like God's fantasy of having limitations and contrasts, and we're not actually, that separate from whatever primal source energy, but we like play this game that we are. So yeah, I'll choose the fantasy life. Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. Because we do that to an extent, but that real life still seeps in. That gurney life still seeps in sometimes. So it's like you can just get unfiltered, complete, and total freedom, free fantasy life. It's almost fucked up.
I'm living a little bit of both right now. I'm watching whales, but my body's falling apart.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like the picture of Dorian Gray, where you're like, the more fantastic your life in Mexico is, the more your like fingers are falling off and shit.
Oh God, don't say. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
Yeah, no, I choose it as well. I'm actually, it made me think about. I'll make it real fast, but there's one of my all-time favorite movies is this Albert Brooks movie called Defending Your Life. It's from like the either late 80s or early 90s, but it's Albert Brooks and a young Meryl Streep, and basically it's all about how, like, quote unquote heaven, like the place you go to after you die, they review your life, and like you have like a defendant and a prosecutor, and they both make kind of like cases about whether or not they think you should go back and like have another life on Earth and like learn more lessons and grow as a human before ascending to something that they can't. It's actually a great plot device where they never explain what the next station in life is, but they just say that's something that like the human brain can't even comprehend. That's how incredible it is, which is like fun. And anywho, it's kind of like a comedy. It's like very whimsical and fantastical, but in it, they, again, it's kind of like a plot device, but they reference the fact that both Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep, who meet there, they're like strangers that meet like in this sort of like purgatory, like halfway place while their cases are being, persecuted. And they talk about how like they have families and kids on Earth, but they're like, wow, like for some reason, like they're like, I know that I love them and care about them, but I just can't seem to like care because like I'm in this place that feels so incredible already, and like the idea of going to this next place that's even more incredible than this. And like I always thought that was kind of like an interesting way of portraying it. So I feel like that might be what gurney life might be like.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like people suffering and whatever, like just unplug me, whatever. Don't be so dramatic. That's what I have just
You love to see
my,
it.
my theme for this episode is get over it, grow up,
Yeah.
stop being a baby.
Well,
Don't have attachments to your loved ones.
Yeah.
Stop being a little bitch.
Well, we're gonna play. So you said last week we need something to signify the other show. So, all right. Well, that sound means, and the sound of Caitlin having a breakdown over there means that is all the time we have. We do appreciate an incredible voicemail performed, and
Yes,
all
thank
the
you.
yeah, thank you to Robin. Thank you to all the people sending questions. Thank you, Marissa, for your pointed questions. Thank you to No Halo and anyone else that was on the YouTube watching and chatting along. And on that note, I'm going to say goodnight to you, Caitlin. Thank you, as always, for being the co-host of the Mo-host. Good night, y'all.
Good night.